Today, my son John and his wife Mary are going on a slightly late honeymoon. Their 4-year-old son, Kevin, will stay with me. Honestly, I wasn't without worries. Kevin continues to ignore me. Can I really manage several days with Kevin?
We're off, Kevin. Make sure you listen to Grandma, okay?
Sorry, Mom. Please take care of things while we're gone.
I saw them off with a smile. Kevin remained expressionless, not saying a word. Feeling apprehensive, I sighed quietly. A few hours later, Kevin looked at me with serious eyes.
We can't stay in this house any longer. Grandma, we need to leave quickly.
What? Kevin's attitude had completely changed. Leave? What are we running from? Kevin seemed desperate. He was urging me frantically. After hearing the details, I quickly packed up and rushed out of the house. My name is Victoria, and I'm turning 65 this year. I lost my husband to illness early on, so now I live alone. Day and night, I can't stop thinking about my only son, John. John lost his wife, Emma, in a car accident 2 years ago. Living as a single father must be really tough. I suggested that we live together, but John insisted he was fine.
I'm okay. Even Kevin says not to worry.
At that time, my grandson Kevin was about 4.5. He was unusually calm for a child and started talking early. I convinced myself that if John lived with such an obedient child like Kevin, he'd be fine, so I didn't push too hard about living together.
I'm thinking about getting remarried.
When John told me this, I couldn't believe my ears. I thought he still adored Emma, who had passed away. Who on earth is he planning to remarry? The situation was more complicated than I had imagined.
Actually, I hit someone with my car.
What? You got into an accident? When? Who was it? Did you report it to the police?
No, the person said there was no need to report it.
No, that's not right.
It wasn't a big accident. I'm not even sure if the car actually hit her, but when I realized it, she was on the ground.
Apparently, John was starting to move from a stop and ended up bumping into a pedestrian. Even though it was not serious, it was an accident, so John tried to report it, but the other person stopped him.
Somehow, after all that, I ended up dating that person.
You started dating the person you hit with your car? Why?
I was really confused at first, but I felt guilty as the one responsible, so I couldn't really say no.
How on earth did it lead to that? It seems John made quite an impression on the other person. Things progressed quickly, and John decided to remarry. Her name is Mary. She's 36, the same age as John. I still can't forget the day Mary came to introduce herself. First, I apologized to her. I'm so sorry about John. Were you hurt? Did you report it to the police?
It's okay, I'm fine. It's just that I have some numbness in my right hand and foot.
I'm sorry. It was my carelessness.
It's okay, John. Don't worry about it.
Of course, he couldn't just not worry about it. John has always been very responsible and sensitive. He will be tormented by guilt for a long time, and he will surely continue to be dominated by Mary, the victim. One day, John and Mary came to visit with Kevin. They come on my husband's monthly Memorial Day. I had prepared some tasty treats and a little pocket money for Kevin.
Grandma, we're here.
Kevin, welcome. Mary, John, come in.
Thank you for having us. Kevin, let's wash our hands first.
Mary seemed to be taking her role as stepmother seriously, making sure Kevin was well educated. Kevin appeared to be fond of Mary too. They looked like a real family. I had been worried about how things would turn out, but it seems the three of them are doing well as a family. After that, we headed to a nearby shopping mall. When we arrived at the food court, I got a call from my neighbor on my phone. Hello, what? My house is on fire? My loud voice made the entire food court go silent. John, Mary, and Kevin all froze, staring at my face. I explained the situation to them and rushed back home. By the time we arrived, there were already several fire trucks, and the area was crowded with people. My house was on fire. Fortunately, it seemed that the impact on the neighbors was minimal. The firefighters had already started spraying water, and smoke was rising from the charred remains of my house. No way. How could this happen?
Mom, hang in there.
John stayed close to me as I collapsed to the ground. The house I had spent decades in, full of memories, was burning down in no time. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak to anyone for a while. According to the fire department, the fire started in the kitchen. They suspected that I had left the stove on when I went out. It can't be. I can't believe it. I made sure to turn off the stove before leaving. Could someone have gone into the kitchen after I left? But I don't think so. Anyway, there's nothing that can be done about what's already burned. We're lucky that no one was hurt and that the neighbors weren't affected. I decided to follow John and Mary's suggestion and move in with them. Thank you for letting me live here, Kevin. Kevin? It was the day of the move. What's going on? Kevin, who used to be so friendly, didn't respond to my greeting. Did I do something to upset him? No, that can't be it. But the unexplained cold shoulder from Kevin continued. John and Mary were also puzzled by his behavior. Even trying to cheer him up with treats and pocket money didn't work. Is he secretly unhappy about me moving in? There was one time when Kevin responded properly to me. It was when John and Mary went out together. Kevin finally spoke to me after a long while.
Grandma, I want a snack.
Kevin, I'll get it for you right now. Hey Kevin, why have you been so cold to me lately?
I'm sorry, Grandma. I can't explain it well, but I think it's better this way right now.
Kevin is smart. It seems he has his reasons. I pressed him further. Why do you think that?
Because Mom is scary.
Mary?
Mom doesn't seem to like you much. I heard her complaining to Dad about you. And, I think she doesn't really like me either.
Really? Maybe you're overthinking it?
I hope so. But if I get too close to you, I don't know what Mom will do.
At that moment, Kevin didn't seem to care for Mary at all. He was avoiding her wrath by keeping his distance. The strongest person in this house wasn't Kevin, John, or me, but Mary. Kevin's cold behavior towards me seemed to be his way of coping in this household. Anyway, realizing that Kevin didn't dislike me was a huge relief. It seemed Kevin was right about Mary not liking me. Mary became increasingly aggressive and stopped hiding her frustration with me.
Victoria, can you prepare dinner? My hands and feet feel particularly numb today.
Sure, of course. No problem.
Sorry to trouble you. I seem to rely on you for everything.
As Mary said, I had become almost like her servant lately. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, shopping, I did everything she asked. I'd like to help with the household chores since we're living together. When we decided to live together, I offered this myself, but I didn't mean to take on everything. However, Mary's behavior grew more and more outrageous by the day. One afternoon on a holiday, Mary invited me to go shopping with her. We parked the car and were about to cross the crosswalk on foot.
Oh no.
Oh, Mary bumped into me from diagonally behind. A loud car horn blared, and the car's front end passed right in front of me. I stumbled and took a step into the road, but narrowly avoided being hit. I turned around to look at Mary, and she looked down at me with a smirk.
Sorry, Victoria. Are you okay? I suddenly felt dizzy. Maybe it's because of the accident?
Maybe. I'll do the shopping, so why don't you take a bus or something and head home?
Oh, are you sure? Well then, I'll take you up on that offer.
Mary left with a light step, humming a tune. She's finally trying to get rid of me. Maybe she was getting increasingly frustrated with our living arrangement. From now on, I realized I needed to be even more cautious. One holiday, we went out for a family drive. Our destination was the beach. It was Mary's request to feel the sea breeze. I think the road was called Sunset Road. There was a space along the road where we could park and admire the ocean and the sunset. Beyond the guardrail was a sheer cliff. If she bumps into me here again, I was on high alert and tried to stay as close to the car as possible.
Victoria, what's wrong? Come over here. The ocean is so beautiful.
Thanks, but I'm fine. I can see it clearly from here.
Even Kevin. Both of you should come over here.
Kevin was clinging to me unusually tightly. He wouldn't let go of my waist. Is Kevin also afraid of being pushed off? His fear made me wonder.
Come on, Kevin. Come over here.
No, I'm fine right here.
It's not good to force him. Let him stay where he wants.
Thanks to John's intervention, we went back home that day. The way Mary smiled when she called us to the cliff was chilling. I was convinced she saw us as obstacles. It was clear she wanted to get rid of us by making it look like an accident. Thinking our life was in danger, I decided to consult someone. My late husband had been a police officer. Among his friends, there were people who had worked in the detective department. When I reached out, Mike met me right away. We met at a small cafe. Mike still had the same active demeanor. I told Mike about Mary's suspicious behavior and Kevin's fear, and after listening, Mike crossed his arms and groaned.
Even the way she met John is suspicious. She could be a scammer with another agenda. I'll look into it. If anything else happens, contact me immediately.
I will. Thank you so much. About a year after Kevin started ignoring me, I heard some surprising news. John and Mary were going on a late honeymoon. Their destination was Singapore,
I've always wanted to go.
Mary said with a smile. On the day of their departure, I felt a swirl of anxiety in my heart. Lately, Kevin had been completely ignoring me. Can we really manage alone?
Oh, we're off, Kevin. Make sure you listen to Grandma, okay?
Sorry, Mom. Please take care of things while we're gone.
I saw them off with a smile. Kevin remained expressionless, not saying a word. Feeling apprehensive, I sighed quietly. A few hours later, Kevin looked at me with serious eyes.
We can't stay in this house any longer. Grandma, we need to leave quickly.
What? Kevin's attitude had completely changed. Leave? What are we running from? Kevin seemed desperate. He was urging me frantically. After hearing the details, I quickly packed up and rushed out of the house. 3 days later, John returned home with serious injuries. When I rushed to the hospital, his entire body was wrapped in bandages, and he was in a coma. They said he accidentally fell off a cliff in a coastal area. John, hang in there. I was completely distraught. My dear John, How could this happen? What was Mary doing? Could she have? Mary looked distraught, but I couldn't understand her true intentions. A few days later, I called Mary to a cafe near the station. It's a popular place that's always bustling,
This place is lovely.
Mary said with a smile, arriving right on time.
So, what's the important thing you wanted to talk about? Something we can't discuss at home. Oh, I get it. You don't want Kevin to hear, right?
Kevin was at preschool. It wasn't about him overhearing. In a busy place like this, Mary wouldn't dare do anything reckless. I chose this location to ensure my safety. Mary, answer me honestly. You pushed John off that cliff, didn't you?
What? That's such a terrible accusation. Why would I do that? Victoria, that's too much.
I'm already furious, and rightfully so, after what happened to John.
Victoria.
When John fell off the cliff, Mary was right next to him. If John had died, the insurance money would go to Mary. That must have been her goal. I asked her directly about it.
You think I pushed John off a cliff for the insurance money? Victoria, you've been watching too many dramas.
I'd be glad if it were just my imagination, but I don't think so. You're planning to take over our house, get rid of everyone in your way, and keep all the money for yourself, right?
Is that why you called me here? You should stop with these ridiculous delusions.
Wait, Mary. We're not done talking. Mary stood up, looking exasperated, but I couldn't let her leave now, because today I was determined to thoroughly question her. As she turned her back, I brought up the incident. You set my house on fire too, didn't you? Mary turned around. She had a fierce look in her eyes. She returned to her seat, glancing around at the other customers.
Victoria, you really need to stop saying such awful things in public. Do you realize you could be sued for this?
You wouldn't listen any other way. Now, tell me the truth. You set the fire at my house, didn't you? On the day we went to the mall, you secretly lit the stove in the kitchen to start a fire, didn't you?
I keep telling you, you've been watching too many dramas. There's no way I could do something like that.
Lying won't help you. I'm always careful about fire safety, and more importantly, Kevin saw you. Mary's confident expression faltered. Yes, Kevin had seen her. Before we went to the mall, Kevin saw Mary go into the kitchen. It happened when I was in the bathroom. You secretly went into the kitchen and lit the stove, didn't you? Kevin remembered it later and was horrified when he realized you were the arsonist.
Ridiculous. You're taking a child's words seriously.
Kevin is a smart kid. Don't you realize he's suspicious of you? He also heard you making a suspicious phone call.
What? A phone call?
Just before I moved into their house, Kevin had caught Mary talking to someone on her phone. Her expression was so frightening that he hid and listened. At that time, you told someone. I managed to set it on fire as planned. Now I've got myself a maid. By maid, you meant me, didn't you?
Kevin must have misheard.
I trust Kevin. He's really smart. He kept his distance from me because he was wary of you. If we got too close, he feared you might get rid of both of us. Kevin was always mindful of Mary's mood and gaze. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say he was pretending to keep her off guard. Ignoring me and pretending we didn't get along was part of that act. He's an incredibly astute boy. Conversely, Mary must have been menacing enough to make Kevin act this way. Mary fell silent, deep in thought. She clearly hadn't expected this conversation today. Her eyes showed she was desperately trying to regain control. Of course, I wasn't going to let things go her way. I moved on to the next point. Do you remember when we went shopping together? You claimed you felt dizzy and bumped into me. You did that on purpose, didn't you?
That's an accusation. I still have numbness in my body because John hit me with his car. Are you aware that it's actually his fault?
It's no use trying to bind us with guilt. I'm not going to believe anything a scam artist says. Mary's eyes widened. Her reaction was so blatant that it was almost like she was admitting it. Yes, she had approached us with financial motives from the start. Look at this photo. It's zoomed in, but it shows you deliberately bumping into me.
What? How did you get this photo? Who took it?
It's from a security camera near the scene. Someone conducted a thorough investigation, and with the building manager's cooperation, we obtained this decisive photo. By the way, that person's name is Mike.
What? No way. That person.
Mary suddenly became flustered. She seemed to recognize the name. Whether she heard it in Singapore or after returning to the US, I'm not sure. But she knew about Mike, my husband's friend. He was the American tourist who quickly noticed the fall and called an ambulance. Mike secretly followed you on your trip because I asked him to. He deeply regrets not being able to stop you from pushing John right in front of him.
No, he was watching the whole time.
Yes, and we have proof. I laid out another photo on the table. This one was also taken from a video. It showed the moment Mary pushed John. It was such a quick event that Mike didn't have time to stop it. If you look at the photo alone, it might just look like you were touching his back a bit too hard. But in the video, it's clear. You pushed John off the cliff, didn't you?
You've been suspecting me all along.
Yes, all along. Honestly, I thought it was strange from the start. Ever since I heard from John that he was marrying the person who he hit with his car. You tried to use guilt to control us. You enjoyed feeling like you held our lives in your hands, taking out insurance policies and deciding to eliminate us on a whim, didn't you?
That's not true, Victoria. Please believe me. I haven't done anything wrong.
Mary denied everything.
I didn't marry John out of guilt after the car accident. While discussing the settlement, I came to appreciate his sincerity and fell in love with him. And I didn't tell anyone about the fire. Kevin must have misheard. Saying I pushed you is also an accusation. The security footage must have been a coincidence. And pushing John off the cliff is completely untrue.
Mary insisted vehemently.
I haven't done anything wrong. Please believe me.
It seemed she was determined to maintain her innocence. Why doesn't she just admit everything already? Her stubborn denials are really starting to anger me. She might want to escape punishment, but I won't let that happen. You and Emma were college classmates, weren't you?
What? How did you?
How do I know? I looked into you. I also checked Emma's photo albums and diaries. Emma, who died in a car accident, was John's first wife. In fact, it was Kevin who first noticed the connection between Emma and Mary. As I keep saying, Kevin is incredibly smart for his age. He remembers things from when he was 2, and he remembered his real mother. Kevin remembered hearing Emma talking on the phone. She kept saying, "Pay me back soon." I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I asked John if I could read Emma's diary.
Emma's diary? I don't know anything about that.
Mary admitted her connection to Emma. She was completely rattled now. She must have something she desperately wanted to keep hidden. The diary mentioned that Emma lent you money, $20,000, quite a large amount. She wrote, "I'm troubled because she hasn't paid me back yet." There were photos of Mary in Emma's album. They were from their college days. Mary looked much more modest back then. She borrowed the money from Emma a few years after starting work. You told her, "I had trouble with an acquaintance. I'll pay you back soon, so please lend me some money." You took $20,000 from Emma, money she had saved since she was a child.
That was not really a bad thing.
Emma became a nuisance to you by constantly demanding repayment, asking, "What did you do with the money? Did you pay it back? Did you use it to cover your debts?" Here's my guess. You might have done something to Emma.
No, that's not true. Stop making these accusations.
Mary denied it, her face pale. Her reaction was very suspicious. Emma had died from being hit by a car. Maybe, like with me, Mary pushed her from behind. I suspected Mary. She glared at me with a fierce look. She now saw me as her complete enemy. She didn't say anything, but it was clear she thought she needed to get rid of me to protect herself.
There's no proof that I pushed Emma.
I said it was my imagination, but judging by your reaction, it seems I was right.
I told you I didn't. Will you stop already?
Mary no longer intended to treat me as her mother-in-law. Her gaze and attitude were full of hostility. Her eyes showed she was thinking about getting rid of me. Suddenly, Mary's expression softened, and she started laughing as if everything was absurd.
Victoria, let's stop this nonsense. I understand you're sad about what happened to John, but doubting your own family is too much, isn't it?
So you're sticking to your story that you did nothing wrong?
Because it's the truth. All these accusations about setting your house on fire or pushing you into the road are just that, accusations. The photos are just coincidences. They're not proof.
That may be true. They might not be conclusive evidence. By the way, what's your relationship with Bob? As soon as I mentioned that name, Mary turned pale. Even that reaction was enough to be circumstantial evidence. In his investigation into Mary's background, Mike discovered Bob. Bob had known Mary for a long time, and it appeared they had financial dealings with each other. You borrowed money from Bob. Then you borrowed money from Emma to repay him.
And then I killed Emma to wipe out my debt. Is that what you're suggesting? Your imagination is impressive, Victoria. It's ridiculous.
I don't think it's that far-fetched. Maybe talking to Bob will reveal more about you. I showed Mary the screen of my phone. It displayed the inside of a dimly lit house where a man appeared. Mary's face turned ashen. No wonder. The man on the screen was Bob. This footage was taken the day you and John left for your trip. We had hidden cameras installed. Didn't you hear from Bob? I went there, but the house was empty.
No way. How? How do you know this?
Thanks to Kevin. Remember, I told you he was wary of you? He overheard you and Bob talking on the phone. Once you guys leave for the trip, the house will just have the old lady and the kid, easy pickings, right?
Kevin, that little, I can't believe it. He was eavesdropping.
I was shocked when I heard it too. At that time, Kevin urged me, saying, "We need to leave quickly." If it weren't for his actions, who knows what Bob might have done to us. It might not have just been a robbery. We could have lost our lives. I gave the footage from the hidden cameras to Mike. He just contacted me. Bob has been arrested. Mike worked with some police contacts to catch him.
What? Bob got arrested? No way, that's a lie. I don't believe you.
So, you do know him. Bob will be charged with breaking and entering. Given his shady lifestyle, more dirt will probably come up, including things about you.
No, I'm not getting caught.
It was almost a confession of guilt. Grabbing her bag, Mary stood up, and dashed to the entrance. She didn't look back and disappeared like the wind. About 2 days after my encounter with Mary at the cafe, John finally woke up from his coma. When I told him about Mary disappearing, he sighed deeply and said,
I see. When we got close to the edge of the cliff, I heard her say goodbye from behind. It was definitely Mary's voice. She intended to push me off from the start.
I relayed John's statement to the police. Mary was arrested about a week later in Florida, where she had fled. She had planned to escape overseas from there. John visited the prison where Mary was held and asked her to sign the divorce papers. Apparently resigned, Mary signed them quietly.
Mary was so thin. She apologized to me repeatedly for pushing me. She said she wanted to apologize to you too, Mom.
I see. That's enough for me. Mary's crimes were severe. She had tried to kill John and fake an insurance accident. Claiming insurance money by staging an accidental death is clear fraud. There was also suspicion that she was involved in Emma's death and the fire at my house. Her connection with Bob, who was arrested earlier, might reveal other crimes. Even for a first offense, insurance fraud can lead to up to 10 years in prison. Mary and Bob won't be out for a long time. As I expected, Mary and Bob were charged with multiple crimes. Taking someone's life to deceive an insurance company is a serious crime that undermines the entire insurance system. Mary received a heavy sentence and will spend a significant part of her life in prison. Of course, Bob was equally guilty. He too had deceived many people and swindled large amounts of money. I hope this world will be free of people like Mary and Bob, and that fewer people will fall victim to such deceit. I couldn't help but fervently wish for that. Now, I live with John and Kevin. John's injuries have healed, but he's not completely back to his old self. He still limps and struggles with various aspects of daily life. As his mother, I can't just leave him to fend for himself. I'm determined to support him with all my might. I also have something to be happy about. Kevin now adores me without any reservations.
Grandma, I'll help with cooking and cleaning.
Oh, really? Thank you. You're such a good boy, Kevin. But what about your school homework? Is it all done?
That's easy stuff. It could be a lot harder.
Just recently, Kevin started elementary school. He's doing his best with his studies. But being so smart, he finds the school assignments a bit too easy. Seeing Kevin so eager and capable fills me with indescribable joy. Lately, I've been hearing more from Mike. He cares about us like we're his own family. With everyone looking out for him, Kevin is growing up strong and healthy. I'm sure Emma is at peace in heaven. Our family was thrown into chaos by a terrible woman, but she's gone now. The tough times are over. From now on, I want the three of us to live happily together, supporting each other. I live each day with that positive thought in mind.